All right, welcome to another episode of The Rundown. Sorry for not posting yesterday. I had some stuff going on, and I also had a little bit of stuff going on today, but we are here. And I first want to start off talking about the Thursday night game. Crazy. Buffalo wins 31 to 21, and it was not the blowout I was expecting it to be. I thought Miami mentally they were going to be soft. I thought they were going to play soft. I thought they were going to get run over. I thought Buffalo would run up the score very quickly and that they would give up. But no, Miami definitely had some fight. And I was very impressed with how Tua played. And there were two plays at the end of the second quarter that really, really impressed me. I mean, there was a 3rd and 12 where Tua's flushed out of the pocket. He gets the ball to Tyreek Hill. And then there was a 3rd and 7 where Tua actually scrambles. And I was pretty scared. I was like, oh no, I don't want Tua to get hit. And then he has another concussion. But he slid. He was unharmed. And he kept the chains moving. And because of those two plays really, really were vital in Miami getting a touchdown and tying up the game at the half at 14 apiece. Third quarter, the Bills got a touchdown, but neither team really got anything going, and it was just punt city. Fourth quarter, Miami gets a touchdown, and the Dolphins defense actually got a stop with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the Bills had to punt, but unfortunately, Zach Sealer, he got a roughing the kicking penalty. That got him an extra 15 yards, and Buffalo gets a touchdown with about 7.5 minutes left. And that was just a terrible penalty because if they just kick it off, Miami gets a touchdown, that would have just changed the tide of that game and maybe could have potentially altered some things. And just getting a roughing the kicker penalty is just absolutely inexcusable. And I hope that Coach Mike McDaniel chewed out Sealer for getting that penalty because that just really, really messes things up, especially when you have a stop and now you have to get back out on the field and then the other team gets a touchdown and you know that it was your fault that the offense got a touchdown because you just were a little bit careless. I've been watching football for over 10 years and I definitely can recall a lot of roughing the kicker penalties. I mean, roughing the passer penalties, sure, that happens. But roughing the kicker penalties, I don't know, man. I think it's probably happened high single digits or maybe low double digits times I've been watching football. But I don't know. Anyone who watches a lot of football and watches 3 4 games at a time, maybe they have more examples and they can say that this is quite a not a regular occurrence, but it happens from time to time. But me personally, just haven't seen a lot of it. But nonetheless, Buffalo gets a touchdown, and Miami actually had a chance to tie this thing up at 28-28 and potentially get it into overtime. But with about 2 minutes left, Tua throws an interception to Terrell Bernard. Uh, and that pretty much iced the game. Buffalo goes down the field, gets a field goal. They win 31-21. And there's a lot of debate about whether or not the interception was Tua's fault. I mean, Kurt Warner is saying that it's on the receiver. He didn't do his responsibility, and because of that, Terrell Bernard was able to get that interception. Emmanuel Ocho is saying that it was simply just a bad read by Tua, and he just didn't make the smart move. I don't know who to believe. I mean, it's crazy how people who've actually played the game can't agree. I think Richard Sherman also said that it was also a bad read by Tua. If I have to agree with somebody, I have to go with the Hall of Famer and Kurt Warner because he played the quarterback position. So I'm just gonna side with him. But nonetheless, it sucks because that play pretty much ended the game. And even though Tua didn't have crazy stats, he was 22 of 34 for 146. He got the ball out of his hands and he made some big plays. And the crazy part about Miami is that they were 10 of 15 on third down, which is insane. And a few of those plays were because of Tua, because like I pointed out with the scramble plays, they're just making big throws. He was a big reason why they were able to get some key third down. So, kudos to them. And, because that offensive line isn't all that great and they were playing with some backups. I mean, I think the fact that Tua was just able to get the ball out on time uh, I think it's fine that he didn't throw for like a bunch of yards. I mean, ideally, when you throw for 34 times, you want to get like more than 200 yards, but whatever. I mean, they had the chance to win the game, but unfortunately, for like a couple reasons, they just blew it. So there is that. And I got to say that I'm impressed with how Mike McDaniel was able to just rally this team. They talked about it on the broadcast, just about how like last year there was like a lot of outside noise and that there were players who really just weren't focused on like playing football. But this year, even though they haven't started out great, they they've been focused on football, and I think it showed on Thursday because they were in it with the Bills, man. And you know, typically I know that this is another L for them, and going to Buffalo. I mean, there was some stat where like I think Josh Allen is like 10-2 or something like that. He's only lost to Miami like twice in his career, which is absolutely insane. But you know, they kept it very, very competitive, and with all the noise about him potentially losing his job after this week and with the 10-day break, he was in his bag, and the offense was able to move down the field. So, you know, credit to them. I know that this season is probably over with them being 0-3, but I mean, you got to take moral victories when you can, and I think that this is a pretty good moral victory. And I think that if Mike McDaniel is just able to improve this team just, you know, throughout the season, and they're able to like rack up some wins even if they don't make the playoffs, like maybe if they get like 8, 9 wins and they're just very competitive in a lot of games, I think you can take that into next year, and it'll show that like he definitely has the locker room's ear. But although I have to say, next week, Monday night against the Jets, if you lose that game, and even if it's like a close game or like, you know, a couple of weird things happen and you lose, I don't think that's going to be good. And I think you might have to have a serious discussion if Mike McDaniels, for some reason, loses that game. You can't lose against the Jets. I mean, losing against the Patriots was bad. You should have won that game. I mean, losing against the Colts, I mean, it looks like they're a good team. Losing against the Bills, okay. But losing against the Jets, so losing against two bad teams, you can't have that. That's where it's unacceptable, and that's where I won't take moral victories. You can't be like 0-4, and two of those teams that you've played are the Patriots and the Jets, who aren't expected to go anywhere whatsoever. But I think that Miami will rally after the 10-day break, and I think they'll get the dub against New York, and we'll see how the season carries on. Now I want to talk about the primetime matchup tomorrow. I think it's going to be the Rams and the Eagles, and this is a big litmus test for both teams. Both teams, especially the Eagles, are expected to be Super Bowl contenders, and the Rams, unfortunately, they have an injury at their cornerback spot, and Akilla Witherspoon, and it's going to be really. I'm sorry, not Akilla Witherspoon, Achille Witherspoon, and it'll be really interesting to see if Philly's able to take any advantage of that because Jalen Hurts has barely thrown for over 100 yards. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith have just not really gotten any motion whatsoever. So we'll see if losing that corner spot for the Rams, if Jalen Hurts will take advantage of that. But it'll also be interesting to see if this is the game where Saquon is just able to go off. I mean, in game one, he had 18 carries for 60 yards. In game two, he had 22 carries for 88 yards. And he's obviously been like able to just keep the offense moving, and he's just been a big hurt for Jalen Hurts, but big help for Jalen Hurts, but he just hasn't had an explosive game yet, but he might be able to have an explosive running game this time around. LA has given up around 111 and a half yards in their two games already this season, just as an average. And Houston and Tennessee are known as these big running teams, so that's a little bit concerning. And now that they're going against a superstar running back in Saquon Barkley, it'll be interesting to see if they can put any stop to him. But even if they do put like a stop to him, will this be the game that Jalen Hurts finally like gets like a 200-yard passing game, and AJ Brown or Devontae Smith have a big game? We'll have to wait and see about that. But the Rams, I mean, they've been airing that ball out. Stafford had 245 yards in game one. He had 298 yards in game two. And Adoree Jackson, he got absolutely destroyed by the Cowboys going against, like, CD Lamb and a little bit of George Pickens. And unfor- fortunately for him against the Chiefs, uh, he really didn't have any threats whatsoever. Rashee Rice was out. Xavier Worthy was out. Their main receivers, the Chiefs was Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown, who's looking a little bit slow, and then obviously the tight end Travis Kelce. And Mahomes just did not have a lot at his disposal in terms of receivers. So he got off a little bit in that regard. It'll be interesting to see how Adoree Jackson matches up, against Devontae Adams or Apuka Nakua. I think it's going to be a tough day for him, and I think Stafford once again is probably going to have a very big passing day. So that's something to watch out for. Kyron Williams hasn't been running the ball at a high rate. He had 18 for 66 in game one and 17 for 66 in game two. I just think that's probably going to continue, and it may be a little bit worse, and he won't just have, like, a big explosive running game. He's not considered one of the better running backs in the league. So the Rams, they're going to throw it, and that's how Sean McVay likes to play. He likes to throw it. So I'm sure Stafford will have another big game. I think the Rams are going to move the ball up and down the field. I think the Eagles are going to move the ball up and down the field. And I know that sometimes, like, last season doesn't carry into this season, but, like, in all their playoff opponents for the Eagles, the Rams were the only one that really gave them a tough time. I mean, they beat the Packers pretty handedly. They beat the Commanders pretty handedly, and they blew the doors off the Chiefs. And the Rams were the only one that gave them a tough time. And if one last touchdown drive from Stafford got through, the Rams might have won that game. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rams still continue to match up well with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they will. I'm predicting it to be a shootout. I think that the Rams win 27-24. I'm going with the upset. I don't know how the betting markets look at it, but I'm going to presume that a lot of them have Philadelphia winning the game. Maybe wrong, but that's what I assume, and I think that the Rams get the upset tomorrow. Now, I want to talk about another pretty good matchup, the Broncos and Chargers. That's going to be a crazy AFC West division matchup. I'm pretty excited about this one. Also, Broncos had a tough loss against the Colts last week. Daniel Jones lit up that much hyped Chargers defense. He had like 316 passing yards, and I think that this is Herbert's year. I think he's also going to have another crazy passing game. I'm sure that he's going to throw for more than 250 yards, and I just think that another year with Jim Harbaugh, he's just going to be on another level, and he's going to continue his MVP campaign, and he has a pretty good trio of receivers in Ladd McConkey, Quinn Johnson, and Keenan Allen. So I think he'll air the ball out also like Stafford. I guess the one thing that the Broncos defense really doesn't have to worry about that much is the Chargers running game. I mean, last week Herbert had more rushing yards than Hampton and Najee Harris, and none of them have really impressed. I mean, Hampton is averaging like 3 yards a carry. Najee Harris hasn't been lighting it up either, and he was horrible in week one. So I guess this game also Herbert is just going to have to do more with his legs. And last week, the Broncos had their hands full with Jonathan Taylor. He had like 25 carries for 165 yards. And this time around, I think they'll have it pretty easy. But I mean, Justin Herbert is freaking awesome, and he's definitely better than Daniel Jones. And I know that week to week things change in the NFL, and just because a lesser quarterback lights up your defense doesn't mean that a better quarterback necessarily will light up your defense, because things change over the week. You make adjustments, you improve. But Maybe Herbert doesn't throw for over 300 yards, but I still think that he's going to have a pretty good game. I guess the only thing that the Broncos may have to do is that they're just going to have to rattle Justin Herbert a bit. I mean, we've seen that when he gets rattled, he just throws interception after interception. We saw it in that playoff game against Houston and the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Raiders did it a little bit, but other than that, they just really haven't been able to get to Herbert that much. So it'll be interesting to see if the Broncos defense improves in that regard. And for the Broncos offense, Bo Nix has struggled a little bit in the past couple of games. I mean, he played pretty well against the Colts, but he had that interception that kind of cost them, and he had like a couple interceptions against Tennessee. But I think that the Broncos offense will bounce back. I think that, they're going to still play pretty well. They have, pretty good running back and Dobbins. And I'm predicting another shootout in this game also. I'm going to go Chargers win 30-27. Now I want to talk about Dallas and Chicago. And when you talk about must wins in week 3, I think for Dallas this is absolutely a must win. I mean, their defense was pretty awful last week against New York. I talked about that. Played okay against Philly, but I think this game will determine how bad their defense really, really is. Because if they get lit up against Chicago, that just means that they absolutely stink. They gave up 450 passing yards to Russ. I mean, if they gave up I don't know, close to 300 passing yards against Caleb Williams, who struggled in Minnesota, who, I mean, he didn't play horrible against Detroit, but made some mistakes. It's not going to bode well for them this season. I think that offensively they're going to play pretty well, Dallas at least. I think that Dak has pretty good weapons in Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and Chicago's defense got lit up last week against Detroit and got through for about 334 passing yards. So I'm sure that Dak more or less will have a pretty good day in that regard. And I think Dallas will also be able to score at least in the 20s for sure. Now for this game, again, not a must win for Chicago, but Caleb has to play well this game because of what I just talked about with Dallas's defense looking so bad against New York. Like I said, didn't play horrible against Detroit, but just made some boneheaded mistakes. And Chicago's offense last week was pretty much roam or bust. They have to spread the ball out more. They have to get Odunze involved. They have to get DJ Moore involved. They have to get the tight end Colston Loveland involved, Cole Kmet involved, and just spread it out more. And I really like how the first possessions look in Chicago when they're able to get a script going, but I want to see when you don't have a script and you're just calling the plays how the offense look. And I just hope that it looks better in that regard. And the reason that Chicago may not win this game is because Kyler Gordon's out. It looks like Jalen Johnson is going to be out for the rest of the season. So again, Dak is just going to have a field day on offense, and Dallas will score a lot of points. Caleb just has to get the ball out of his hands, spread it out more, and when he has to go off platform and he has to go Superman, then he can go Superman. I mean, he already has 2 weeks under his belt with Ben Johnson. You just want to see another improvement in week 3, especially when you're going against a Dallas defense, which I don't think is particularly all that good. And when Russ can go off, and we all thought that Russ was pretty much washed, I think that Caleb Williams should be able to have a decent scoring game. And I think that this is the game he has to do. And I understand that in other games he may not play as well, but I think against this team specifically, he has to show something. Now I want to talk about the Washington Commanders. They're going to face off against the Raiders, and it looks like Jaden Daniels is not playing tomorrow. He's going to be out with a knee sprain, and it looks like Marcus Mariota is going to get the start. The Raiders, I criticize them a lot for their performance against the Chargers. I particularly criticize Geno for having 3 interceptions and just putting the ball in harm's way and just having dumb turnovers that just cost his team. And I'm sure that this time around he'll be more alert and he'll fix his mistakes. But Washington's defense, they need to help their backup out and they need to just get some turnovers. Uh, so far in these last two games, Washington's defense really hasn't done all that much. I mean, they haven't forced a turnover. This time around, they have to force a turnover and they just have to help their backup quarterback out. And for a backup quarterback, for the most part, you need a pretty good running game. You need the defense to help you out, and you need the receivers to get, of course, open like any quarterback does. I mean, against Green Bay, McLaurin, Debo, nobody could get open for Jack Squat. And this time around, they do need to get open to help Marcus Mariota out. I think if you shut down Terry McLaurin, the Raiders have a pretty good chance of winning this game. So he has to go out and he has to show why he was worth all that money that the Commanders gave him. And it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, I know it's just Marcus Mariota playing and it's not Jaden, but I'm really interested to see if Washington really just a good team or is it just because that Jaden is awesome that he's able to carry them in these games. And if it wasn't for him, Washington would be in the tank. So I'm looking forward to that, but you just need Washington skill players to play better. And I think that if they're able to do that, they'll be able to get the dub. But I don't think that they're going to get the dub this week. I think the Raiders are going to bounce back after a pitiful performance against the Chargers. And the Raiders played pretty well on defense. They held the Chargers to 20 points. So the Chargers are a better team than Washington, so they should be able to hold the Commanders around that also, especially with Marcus Mariota being the starting quarterback. So I think that the Raiders win 20 to 14. Now I want to talk about the primetime game, and that's going to be the Giants and Kansas City. Both teams are 0-4. I think coming into this season, I think a lot of people would have expected the Giants to be 0-4 this time around, but the Chiefs, even their most ardent haters, wouldn't predict them to be 0-4, but that's where they are at this point, and this is a get-back game for the Chiefs. It looks like Xavier Worthy is going to play. Don't know how well he's going to play, especially with a busted up shoulder and how limited he's going to be, but honestly, they need something, and if he can make one or two big plays, that would be great because they just don't have a lot at receiving talent. And I keep banging my head for this, but Mahomes has got to hit Thornton on the deep ball. They just have to find a way to get that chemistry going because Thornton is one of their few deep receiving threats, and they need to be able to just throw the ball down the field. And I hope that this time around against New York, they're able to figure this out. I think with the Giants D-line, I just think Mahomes is unfortunately just going to have to run more. I talked about how he feels he has to run more because he just does not have a lot of talent on offense. And with this Giants D-line and with Kansas City's offensive line just not playing well and not protecting him all that well, he's going to have to use his legs more. So that's unfortunate, and I think he's probably going to have more rushing yards than probably the running backs. Giants, after Russell Wilson looked so great last week, I don't know if he's going to look great this time around. I think that, this is kind of going to be a get-back game for the Chiefs defense also. I think that Russ is going to struggle, throwing the ball down the field. I'm sure he'll hit some moon balls for sure, but I don't think it's going to be at the regular rate like he did it against Dallas because that defense is awful. And Kansas City's defense played pretty well against Philadelphia. And I think that against the Giants offense, they'll be able to play even better. And I don't think the Giants offense is any good anyways. They just looked good because Dallas's defense sucked. But I think with Kansas City's defense, that should help carry the day. It's going to be another slog for the Chiefs offensively. But one thing I am hoping for the Chiefs offensively is Travis Kelce just having a better game. He hasn't been all that great in these past 2 weeks, and he had that costly interception against Philadelphia. I'm sure that he's going to bounce back. He's going to have a better game. He's going to be more fired up, and he's going to get his guys going, and he's going to make the big plays like he's done throughout his career. So I think Kelsey's going to be a big, big help. Hopefully Mahomes can hit Thornton down the field, and hopefully Xavier Worthy can make some things happen. And I'm predicting that the Chiefs are going to win 20-17. And if they don't win this game, I think they miss the playoffs. This is absolutely a must win for the Kansas City Chiefs also. You can't go 0-3. I mean, I love Patrick Mahomes. I love Andy Reid and just all they've accomplished throughout their time together, but 0-3 is just hard to come back from. So far, I've had enough respect for them to say that you can make the playoffs despite going 0-2, but 0-3, nah, that's not going to cut the mustard. So it'll be interesting to see how that primetime game shakes out and how all the other games shake out. I'm going to be back Tuesday, Thursday this week. Just have some things that I need to take care of, but I will see you on Tuesday. I'll break down the games on Sunday. I'll break down the Monday night game and all the storylines that go around that. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Sorry again for the delay, and thank you so much for listening.